This is Financial Literacy Section 7.5 lecture. This lecture is on bond interest, so the income that is earned from bonds. So go ahead, and we've got just a little bit of vocab to write down here for your notes that'll go in your notebooks. So go ahead and write this down. Bond interest is often paid semi-annually, which is twice a year. The interest paid is based on the par value. So we learned that in 7.4. That's the value of the bond written on the bond. Okay, so a lot of times it's $1,000 or $500. And then the formula you're going to use is interest is equal to the par value times the rate times the time. Okay, so really it's another PRT kind of situation. Instead of principal, it's par value. All right, let's look at example A on page 2. Oh, sorry about that. Go ahead and pause the video so you can write that down. Okay, we'll look at example A on page 296. It says Alif Guilak owns $10,000 9% bonds. What's his semi-annual interest on the bonds? All right. So your interest is going to be the par value times the rate times the time. So that would be $1,000 par value. The rate is 9%. And then it says semi-annual interest. So that's semi-annual is half a year. So times a half for the time. Right, and that is we have to then multiply that number by 10 bonds, because that's for one bond. So when you do that, you'll get $450. All right, example B. Let me pull the book into view here. I probably should have got the student book. It has bigger type. Sorry about that. It says Beatrice Greslak bought $2,500 8.5% bonds. What's her annual income? So not semi-annual, annual income from the bonds. All right. So her interest is going to be, these have a par value of $500. The interest rate on the bond is 8.5%, so 0.085. And it asks for annual income, so we're just going to have a 1 instead of a 1/2 like the previous problem. And then you're going to take that number times 20 bonds. And that'll be $850. Okay, pause it if you need to. All right, let's look at 7.5.2. So this is bond yields. Not a lot of vocab in this section. You'll probably appreciate that. I'm going to get a new pen because mine is getting a little bit thick here. All right, bond yields. So we have an equation that another equation you need to learn, current yield. So current yield is equal to the annual income. Okay, that's what we just figured out in the previous section, divided by the bond price. So this is really an interest rate that you're getting, because you can buy bonds at a discount or a premium. The current yield will be different than the interest rate printed on the bond if you've bought it at a discount or a premium. All right, so let's look at example C on page 297. All right, the names on the last examples are pretty good. All right, this is not a person. So Crescent Company, $1,000 9% bonds are offered at 101.585. So they're offered at a premium. Par value would be 100. All right, so they're going to have to pay more for these. What's the current yield to the nearest tenth of a percent? Okay, it's 9% bond. If you have to pay a premium, your yield is going to be less than 9%. Okay, so first of all, let's get the annual income, the numerator in the equation. What's going to be par value, $1,000, times 0.09, the interest rate written on the bond, and then we're just going to do it for 1 year. So it's annual income. Okay, so that'll be $90. The bond price is going to be $1,000. And then, like in section 7.4, you have to multiply it by, you have to change that number to a percent. 101.585, you move the decimal point 2 places to the left, 1.01585. And you get a bond price of $1,015.85. So this is a $1,000 bond, but because it pays a higher interest rate than market value, it's selling for $1,015.85. So the current yield so you take the annual income, 90 simoleons, and divide it by the price of the bond, $1,015.85. We have to convert that to a percent. And because we paid a premium for the bond, it's going to be less than 9%. It's 8.9%. All right, let's take a look at example D. All right, example D says the semi-annual interest on $1,000 Lancaster housing bonds is $47.50. That's semi-annual. We're going to have to convert that to annual. What do you do to convert semi-annual to annual? Multiply by 2. If you buy the bonds at 94.598, so is that a premium or a discount? 94.598. All right, somebody in the class can answer. All right, what is the current yield? All right, so this example D, page 297. So the interest, that is equal to, semi-annual was $47.50, right? So the annual will be $47.50 times 2, which is $95. The price of the bond, so we didn't have to do PRT because they gave us what the interest was, is going to be 1,000 times that number that we have to convert to a decimal, 0.94598. In the problem it says 94.598. That's a percent. Convert, move it to the left. And so these things sell at less than $1,000. They sell at $945.98. That's because they don't pay as much interest as market rate. So they sell for less. So the current yield is going to be the interest, the annual income, or $95. Remember, they told us semi-annually, and we had to multiply by 2. Divide by the price, $945.98, times 100 to convert it to a percent, and you get 10%. All right, two more problems and we're done with this lecture. section 7.5.3 is called total cost of bonds. So example E on page 297. So let me pull that one into view. The bottom of 297 says Reba Neal buys $10,000 9.7% bonds through a dealer at 97.272. So that's selling at a discount, less than 100, plus accrued interest of $24.25 per bond and commission of $4 a bond. What's the total cost of the bonds to Reba? So here's the thing. If you buy a bond from someone, you may have to pay that person the interest that it has earned so far during the year. All right. And then you may have to pay a commission to a broker. So the total cost of the bond is not just the price of the bond. All right. The price part is going to be the par value, $1,000. Then the discount, which is 0.97272. And then there's 10 bonds, so multiply that by 10. And that's 97.2720. But we got to pay some more. All right, first of all, the previous owner of the bond is going to want their interest that the bond has earned so far. So we've got 10 bonds, and each bond earned $24.25. You got to pay that to the previous owner, so that's $242.50. All right, and then the commission, you have to buy a bond through a broker. And so they're going to get a commission. And the commission is $4 a bond. So 10 bonds times 4 clams. All right, that's a pretty small commission. You could do a lot worse. So add those up and you have $10,009.70. Okay, let's finish this thing up. Example F. Don't you like these short sections? Julio Pujols buys $20,000 8% bonds on April 1st at 105.228 plus accrued interest from January 1st. Okay, so that's a quarter of a year. January 1st to April 1st, 1 quarter of a year. That's the time. Commission was not shown, so I guess there's no commission. What is Julio's total cost for each bond? All right, the price. So 1,000. Now they're not always $1,000. Be careful there. Sometimes they're a different price. He bought these at a premium, 1.05288. Bonds are fancy, aren't they? So $1,052. So it's just one bond. It says price per bond. $1,052.88. And then the interest. So it didn't, in the previous problem, it just told you the interest. In this one, you have to use that PRT, the par value times the rate times the time. So it's $1,000 par value. Rate is 8%, and it was for 1 quarter of a year. So that's 20 smackers. That's 1072.88. All right, what is the homework? So if you're watching this in 2020, this will be the homework due Friday. You got to do 9 through 23 odd, 27, and 28. That'll be your last homework assignment before Thanksgiving in 2020. And I will talk to you after Thanksgiving.